The Flayer curse was a parting gift from the Catan known as Landagor the Flayer. Over time, those Necrons tainted with the curse suffer a slow and torturous erosion of sanity. Where other Necrons are cold and calculating, these infected warriors begin to take pleasure in death and carnage, wrapping skin and torn flesh around them like grisly trophies. As the madness progresses, their actions become even more depraved, and they will feast on the flesh of the fallen. Despite being unable to digest or consume the flesh in any sense, the blood simply seeps through the gaps in their exoskeleton and pools beneath their feet. As unnerving as this behavior may be to other Necrons, their discomfort is nothing compared to the fear that is felt by other races when they encounter the Flayed Ones. Appearing without warning, the Flayed Ones will slip into reality and begin their gory harvest, slicing their victims apart with long flensing blades that will strip flesh from bone with sickening ease. Greetings, Crypt Ghouls and cheap Terminator ripoffs. Today, I am Lucius, as I am most days, and this is WarHQ. The subject of today is Warriors of Renown, and today we're going to be covering the Necron Flayed One. I'm going to tell you why this thing is so good in Kill Team, why you should be using it if you're a Necron player. Most of all, let's have a look into why they're so hard to kill, and why do they just seemingly never miss a shot ever, and you take multiple wounds. Those things I'll try and cover today, but for now, if you'd like to, please hit that subscribe button. We love you guys, channel's growing. Had a little bit of a hiatus, we've been pretty busy over this last couple of weeks, but we're back. And we want you to be part of this channel, so please hit that subscribe button. And for now, let's get started. Now at first you may be confused. The Necron Flayed One is the cheapest model in the Necron army. So you might think, it's possibly the worst. But you wouldn't be further from the truth. The Necron Flayed One is the most cost-effective, useful part of your Necron army, in my opinion, and that's what makes it a warrior of renown. Now, let's have a think about why that could be. Now, the first thing that comes to mind is this is one of the only, or I should say, one of the most affordable close combat troops in the Force itself. Now, the Necron warriors, the Immortals, the Death Marks are all completely useless at close combat. As an enemy, all you need to do is get into charge on them, and they are screwed. You can lock them down, you can kill them. Now, not so much with the Necron Flayed One, and I'm going to explain why with looking at their strengths. Now, obviously, they have a good base characteristic, like all Necrons. They have 4 strength, 4 toughness. They have a 4+ save, which is good, a leadership of 10. Now, these guys have 3 attacks, as opposed to most Necrons, which have 1. Which also gives them a great advantage in close combat. I did mention the cost before of these, and they're only 10 points each. So that means at a 100-point tournament, you could run 10 of these, which makes us a pretty decent, non-elite kind of kill team, but still very durable. Now, let's have a look at what these things can do for us. So they all have the flaying claws, the flensing claws, the flayer claws, sorry, let's get it right. And it took me 3 turns. Now, these things don't look that amazing on the surface. They're just strength user, which is 4. They have no AP, which is probably their major weakness. But the Necron warrior has 3 attacks. 4 if they're a combat or a Zealot specialist. But what's more important is the Flayer claws allow the Necron Flayed One to re-roll all wounds that they do with hits, which is very important. This is very strong, especially when you've already got a 4 strength. That's great. Your probability of wounding things is very high, especially with 3 attacks. Now, you combine this with one of their subfactions, the Novok subfaction, and now, if you charge or were charged within a turn, you can also reroll all hits that a Necron Flayed One does. This is off the scale good, and this is sort of broken in my opinion, because in games that I've played against the Necron Flayed Ones, what happens to me generally is if they can get a charge on me, or I charge them thinking I'm going to get all, crazy on them, it goes bad. And it goes bad because with their 3 or 4 attacks, I'm having to face a model that can reroll both hits with a 3 to hit base and can reroll all wounds. Most of the forces I use are toughness 3, so they're already 3 up to wound me as well. So they're going to reroll that both times. And this is quite unnerving when you're in close combat with a unit like this, because you realize that you're pretty much screwed, that you are going to take those 3 hits most of the time. So their success rate, if you're going to math hammer this stuff, is off the charts for these to actually all go through and to force a saving roll on you. Now, as I said before, the AP of these is their only real weakness, but for 10 points, you wouldn't want to give them even a -1 AP, because I think it would make them so overpowered for that points cost that it's not funny. They're already on the border of overpowered in my eyes. Not that I want them to be nerfed or anything like that. The volume of attacks, as I've said before, is a pretty awesome thing. And you combine this with a really resilient unit within the Necron Flayed One, which all Necrons have, by the way, with their reanimation protocols. So if they're taking wounds, they're only, if the opponent rolls a 6, then basically they just reanimate and they lose all their flesh wounds. So when you're advancing these things to try and get them into combat, if you're using good terrain usage along the way, they're really hard to kill. You literally have to roll a 5 if they are behind cover on a wound roll, on an injury roll, to actually take these things out of combat. That's 1 in 6 chance of killing them as they're advancing towards you. This makes them insanely durable and able to get into combat. So these are the strengths of the Necron Flayed One, and they are really, really good. And that's why I class them as a warrior of renown. 3 main things stick out to me as weaknesses of the Necron Flayed One. Now, as I've explained before, the AP of their weapons is 0. This, I think, is overcome by their volume of attacks. So even taking 3 to 4 attacks is going to overcome even the hardiest of Marines. You're going to fail one of those saving rolls. It's going to happen. If you're having to make 3 to 4 saving throws, which you will be, just from one of these guys, you're going to fail one, unless you roll really well. The next thing is their base movement is very slow at 5. Not the best, but there are a few ways around that, I guess. And the last thing is no shooting, obviously. So these guys have 0 shooting. So you have to actually get them into close combat for them to be good. If they had shooting, they'd be so overpowered, it's not funny. But those are the weaknesses of the Necron Flayed One. All 4 of the specialisms available to the Necron Flayed One are good and useful within the game. The first is the leader, which I think this is a great choice for a leader at 10 points. You're not so worried then about keeping him in the backfield. He's already really durable, probably won't get taken out from that far, especially behind cover. So I'd recommend them as a leader figure within your Necron force. Veteran is a great one. If you're going to use a veteran in this force, personally, I would use the veteran on something like one of the Lich Guards or something, so that they can, they're a more hard-hitting unit. You can get them in. But hey, if you're going to take an all Flayed One list, why not use a veteran as well? Because you can take that advanced move and get them up as close as you can very quickly. Now the other 2 almost auto includes, so that's combat and zealot. Obviously both of these put your attacks up to 3, with all the time with the combat, but with the zealot you're getting that +1 strength as well, which is really handy in that turn of charge, and you'll be re-rolling everything as well. So both of these options are really good. So specialisms are great with Necron Flayed Ones. As far as sub-factions go for the Necrons, if you're going to base your team primarily around Flayed Ones, there's only really 2 that you consider, and I'd say one's stronger than the other, but the other one's still pretty good too, if you wanted to try something different. Now, the first one is Novok. I mean, it's without saying, you can re-roll hit rolls, all hit rolls in the fight phase. If you charged or were charged or made a pylon move, which is just so strong for this force. As I said before, this is giving you re-rolling all hits and re-rolling all wounds for these guys in close combat. Totally insane. The second one that I'd consider is the Nephric. Okay, so with Nephric, if a model on your kill team advances, you can re-roll a d6 to determine the increase of that model's move characteristic, which is really good because they're slow. And in addition, if a model in your kill team advances, it can move across models and terrain as if they were not there. So they're basically teleporting everywhere. That's That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, both of these are really strong, but I really think that the first one is the most powerful. Re-rolling those things is amazing, but if you're going to go the other one with the teleport, you can re-roll all those advances, but you can also charge through terrain. Bang. So people are not going to see that coming. So both of these, you're going to have to weigh them up, but experiment with both because they're fun. The Necron Tactics allow some amazing stuff to happen for these Flayed Ones. Now you've got 3 in particular which should all work together. They're all 1 point each, 1 CP, and you can use a combination of these to make them awesome in close combat, which they already are. So the first one's Disruption Fields. So Disruption Fields gives you +1 to your strength during the fight phase. Handy if you're going to fight Marines. You're putting them down to then 3 up to wound, which is really great, and you're re-rolling wounds. So if you really want to kill them, you can go that one. There's Flensing Fury. I really like this one. So you can basically give them to them for 1 point again, and any wound rolls of 6 will now do 2 damage, which is very strong. You might want to, maybe you're fighting something with multiple wounds, and you really want to take them out this turn. This could be a good way to do it. And you could combine those two, the Disruption Fields and Flensing Fury, get the +1 strength, and then also get the 2 wounds if you roll a 6. And with 3 to 4 attacks, with all re-rolls, your chances of rolling a 6 with the wound is very high. So I wouldn't be too shy about using this one. The other one I really like, and this one nearly trumps the other two, is the Entropic Strike. So this one, you can +1 to injury rolls. How often can you do that? That's really strong. So, if you're normally killing them on a 4+, you're killing them on a 3+. Makes it a lot easier to kill things. Now, one of my favorites, and everyone uses this one, is the Haunting Horrors. So Haunting Horrors allows you, at the end of the movement phase, to drop in 3 Necron Flayed Ones that were held in reserve. A lot of factions have this, but this makes the Necron Flayed Ones even better, because you can put them within 5 inches of the enemy anywhere on the board. Amazing. This negates their poor movement, in my eyes. This is what I was talking about before. Another one you might want to consider is the Mind Shackle Scarab one. So Mind Shackle Scarabs, basically you roll 2d6, you're trying to get over the leadership characteristic of one of the opponent's models. If you can, then you can shoot or attack with that model, which makes it super strong. So if you've got a really weakly willed team, I guess you'd say, like say Orcs or something, and this has been used against me a couple of times successfully as well, you can take over like their Flamer or something and then just burn the crap out of some of their Orc boys or something, which is super powerful. And they're my picks for the tactics for the Necrons. So there you have the Necron Flayed One. You can see why I think it's a Warrior of Renown. They're super powerful, excellent in close combat, re-roll everything, hard to kill. Almost the perfect warrior, aren't they? Definitely one of the top Warriors of Renown so far. I think these ones are right up there. You can overcome that slow movement with being able to drop them in from reserve. Very powerful. They have excellent tactics that can build them up to make them even better at killing stuff. A few weaknesses, really not much to talk about. Volume of attacks generally kills most things, even if they've got good saving throws. So yeah, Necron Flayed One, Warrior of Renown, thumbs up. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please subscribe, as I've said before. Hey, also consider becoming a Patreon. We've only got a couple, but we'll grow that eventually. But we'd love your patronage if you would wish to help and support this channel. We've got some exciting news coming up very soon, but we'll be making an announcement. And this is I think you guys are going to like this, what we've got planned. And I hope you join us for that ride. So keep tuned for episodes as well. We will be bringing out some very soon on this announcement. But for now, I'm Lucius. You're you. This is WarHQ, and we're signing out.